Now let's add some shape to our wing. So at this point, we can go ahead and take our extrude with the spline once we've got that finalized and I've got the cap set the way that I want. Now I can go ahead and right click on this and we can say current state to object. That'll go ahead and create a copy. Let's turn off our original. So here we have our main geometry, and you'll see underneath that we actually have these other polygons parented underneath, rounding, cap, and you can see that if we select the cap, that's actually just the bottom, and the rounding is just this part on the outside. So it's actually separated out. So I want to connect everything together before we actually do anything else to this. So I'm going to go ahead and unparent these different pieces. Okay, same thing with the other pieces here. And so now we're left with all of the separate pieces. Okay, so I want to connect them all together and merge all the vertices together. So what we can do is use a connect object. So go into our generators, choose connect. Okay, and let's go ahead and take all these objects, and I'm just going to connect them and delete and drop them into this object. Okay, you can see we have a tolerance here for how close the points have to be for them to be able to be welded together. So I'll leave that as is, and then we'll take that connect and go ahead and make it editable. Now let's go ahead and take one of these points. For instance, the rounding ended right here, so now it's all welded together, one complete shape. So we can call this something like wing poly. So I want to start to deform this now a little bit. So it's just one big block right now. It's not really a wing shape. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to use an NFFD to do this. And so let's go ahead and bring this in. And I want to increase the size so it encompasses the entire wing. So I'll increase that grid size here until it goes the whole way. Okay, let's go ahead and increase the height a little bit, move it, and then we'll do the width. So we'll get that width set here. So just making this box all the way around so that the wing is completely inside. All right. Now let's add a few points. So thinking about the fact that we want to sort of bend this, let's go ahead and add a few points in here. Not enough to make it unmanageable, but just a few. Go ahead and take this down a little bit more. Let's add a few going in this direction as well. And now we'll drop this FFD underneath the wing poly. And now let's start to do some manipulation on this. So I'm going to go into, in this case, the front view, and go to the point tool. And let's start to manipulate our FFD. So I'm going to grab some of these points and start to move them up. Leave the top by itself. So I'll pull these points up. Pull these points up just to thin it out as it goes towards the back. Okay, do the same thing here. And we can start to thin it out here as well. We can take this front part, the front point, and pull it back. Take the top ones and pull it in to kind of taper that back a little bit. Okay. If we also want to give it a little bit of a bend, so we can take this front line and pull it down a little. And if you want to actually rotate it, you can rotate that selection of points. And pull this up a bit. Pull this up a bit. Maybe thin it out even a little bit more. Okay, so we're adding kind of a tapered effect and also a sort of a bend to it. Okay, so you can kind of see that there. We also want to bend it going in this direction, so I'm going to take these lines and just kind of bring that down a little bit. And we'll do the same thing over here on this side to add a little bit of a bend. Now I want to taper it in this direction as well. So let's go ahead and take all of these points here. We'll move them up. And then we'll do the same thing with these bottom points to make that wing a bit thinner. Okay, and if you want to, you can take those points and actually just scale them down. Kind of thin out that wing. And just so it's not completely drastic, you can take these and we can sort of scale those down as well. And then we can just, again, think about our bend. So maybe we want to add a little bit more of a bend in here. Maybe we'll go all the way here. And maybe we don't want it to go all the way to the back, but just kind of pull that down a little bit. All right, so something like that. You can take the whole thing and rotate it. So we can rotate it so it's sort of sticking up a little bit more. Again, if we want to thin out any of these areas like back here, we can go ahead, grab these, thin them out a little bit. If we want to, again, just kind of move them up, we can. Just to give it a little bit more shape. Okay, here as well, if we want to thin out the end of it. So this FFD is really powerful because you can kind of smooth, deform it in a lot of different directions at once. Okay, so once you're happy with the result, you can go ahead and take your object and let's say current state to object, and that will give you one without the FFD that has those changes built in. Okay, so now that we've got the deformed wing, let's go ahead and look in the next lesson at how we can start to smooth out some of this geometry, so give us more of a smooth wing shape on the front, and just continue to shape this a little bit. So we'll go ahead and do that next.